Once upon a time, in a faraway land, there lived a kind-hearted girl. Her name was Cinderella, but everyone called her the Ash Girl, for she was always covered in soot and cinders. Her stepmother and two cruel stepsisters despised her deeply and made her do all the chores in the house. Sweeping the floors, washing the laundry, cooking the meals. From early dawn until late at night, Ella worked without rest. Yet, just like everyone else, she too had dreams. Dreams of wearing a beautiful dress, of attending grand balls, and maybe, just maybe, finding true love one day. But her stepmother would never allow her to be happy. Her stepsisters mocked her every chance they got. One morning, as the golden rays of sunlight streamed through the window, the royal messengers began to march through the streets, filling the air with the sound of trumpets. Everyone rushed to their windows, eager to hear the news. The heralds shouted with excitement. The most beloved prince of the kingdom is hosting a grand ball. Every young maiden is invited. The prince shall choose the one who will capture his heart. The news spread through the village like lightning. Every girl squealed with joy, chattering about dresses, hairstyles, and dreams of dancing beneath the glittering chandeliers of the royal palace. Cinderella's stepsisters were beside themselves with excitement. They stood before the mirror, choosing their finest gowns. One planned to wear ribbons in her hair. The other debated which shade of eye powder would make her more charming. Meanwhile, Cinderella's heart fluttered with hope. She gathered her courage and approached her stepmother. May I go to the ball too?" she asked softly, her voice trembling. Her stepmother raised her brows in feigned surprise, then smiled cruelly. "You? Go to the ball in your filthy rags? No one would want you there." Her stepsisters burst into laughter. "Perhaps you could dance with the fireplace ashes. Or maybe the prince will run away in fright when he sees you." Cinderella lowered her head, but her spirit did not break. She didn't only long to go to the ball. She longed to feel just once that she belonged in the world, to feel that she mattered. She secretly took out an old dress, worn and faded, yet full of the tender memories of her late mother. For days and nights, she mended and sewed it in secret, holding on to a fragile spark of hope. "Maybe this time, life will smile upon me," she whispered. At last, the day of the ball arrived. The house was in chaos. Cinderella curled her stepsister's hair, fastened their buttons, and made sure every detail was perfect. As ordered. When all was ready, the carriage arrived at the door. Cinderella dared to ask one last time, "Please, may I come too?" Her stepmother snapped impatiently, "No! While we're away, I want this house spotless. If I find a single speck of dust when I return, you'll regret it." The door slammed shut. Cinderella stood alone. She watched through the window as the carriage disappeared down the road. like mist into the cold air. She stepped into the garden as darkness fell. Tears like pearls rolled down her cheeks. But she didn't know something important. Even in the darkest hours, miracles wait to be born. Cinderella whispered softly, maybe a miracle will come after all. And at that very moment, a spark of light began to glow in the darkness. Cinderella sat quietly in the courtyard beneath the pale light of the moon. Her hands covered her face as she whispered through her tears, I have no hope left. Oh, if only my mother were here. Just then, she heard a faint rustling among the dry leaves. It wasn't the wind. It was something different, something magical. When she lifted her head, a golden light shimmered before her eyes. The light grew brighter and brighter, until from its heart, a gentle and graceful woman appeared. The woman held a wand that sparkled like starlight. Fairy godmother, why are you crying, my dear child? Startled, Cinderella took a step back. Cinderella, who are you? The woman smiled warmly. Fairy godmother, I am your fairy godmother. I've watched over you for many years. Your heart is pure and kind. And tonight, you shall go to the ball. Cinderella gasped softly. Cinderella, but I have no dress, no carriage, nothing at all. The fairy godmother chuckled kindly. Fairy godmother, nonsense, my dear. There is no such thing as impossible, only a little magic. She raised her wand, and with a graceful flick, whoosh, a pumpkin lying nearby began to tremble and roll. Cinderella, the pumpkin, is it growing? With a burst of golden light, the pumpkin transformed into a magnificent carriage. Its wheels gleaming like gold, its windows shining like crystal. Cinderella touched it in awe. Cinderella, this can't be real. Fairy godmother, oh, but we're just getting started. She pointed to the mice scurrying across the courtyard. Fairy godmother, these little friends of yours are quite hard-working. Another flash of light, and the mice turned into fine white horses, strong and proud. A nearby lizard blinked in surprise as the fairy godmother tapped it gently. It became a coachman in elegant attire. Cinderella couldn't help but laugh through her tears. Cinderella, good evening, Mr. Lizard. Coachman, bowing. At your service, my lady. Yet Cinderella looked down at her hands, still covered in soot, her dress torn and faded. The fairy godmother stepped closer, her eyes filled with warmth. Fairy godmother, you can't go to the ball dressed like this, can you? Let's fix that. With a sweep of her wand, a cascade of silver light swirled around Cinderella. In an instant, her rags became a breathtaking gown of shimmering silk, its folds glimmering like starlight. Cinderella twirled in wonder. Cinderella, I've never imagined wearing anything so beautiful. Fairy godmother, and now only one thing remains. She struck the ground lightly with her wand, and before them appeared a pair of delicate glass slippers that sparkled like pure magic. Fairy Godmother, these are not just shoes, my dear. They will remind you to be brave. Cinderella slipped them on. They fit perfectly. Cinderella, thank you. I'll never forget this. The fairy godmother's voice grew serious but kind. Fairy Godmother, but remember, my child, when the clock strikes midnight, the spell will be broken. Everything will return to the way it was, even the slippers. Cinderella, don't worry. I promise I'll return before midnight. The fairy godmother winked with a smile. Fairy Godmother, then go, my dear. The night of your dreams awaits. The coachman took the reins, and the horses galloped into the night, carrying Cinderella toward the palace and her first true miracle. Behind her, the fairy godmother watched with proud, shining eyes. The palace was ablaze with light. Golden chandeliers shimmered, and the music of violins floated through the grand halls. Everywhere, people laughed, sang, and danced, all trying to catch the eye of the handsome prince. Yet the prince's heart remained restless. He gazed around the glittering ballroom, whispering to himself, "Prince, none of them are the one I seek. My eyes seem to search for someone else." And just then, the great doors creaked open. The music stopped. Every head turned toward the entrance. There, standing in the doorway, was Cinderella. Her gown sparkled like the stars in the midnight sky. As she walked gracefully into the hall, her skirt swirled around her like a silver cloud. Her stepsister stared in disbelief. Older stepsister. Who is that girl? Younger stepsister. The prince is sure to choose her. The prince forgot to breathe for a moment. A smile slowly spread across his face. He stepped forward, his hand outstretched. "Prince, my lady, would you do me the honor of sharing this dance?" Cinderella hesitated for a heartbeat, then smiled softly. Cinderella, with pleasure. As they began to dance, the orchestra came alive once more. All eyes followed them, but to Cinderella and the prince, the world seemed to vanish. It was as if the entire ballroom had disappeared, leaving only the two of them beneath the golden light. "Prince, may I know your name?" Cinderella, with a shy smile. "Perhaps another time?" Prince, "Very well. But even if you do not tell me, your eyes already whisper the name of your heart." Cinderella blushed and looked down. Cinderella, "Your Highness, I am just an ordinary girl. I feel as though I don't belong here." The prince shook his head gently. "Prince, true beauty does not come from jewels or gowns. You shine from within." They danced for what felt like forever. Then they stepped onto the balcony, where the moonlight wrapped them in silver. "Prince, when I speak with you, time itself seems to stop. It feels as though I've known you all my life." Cinderella, sometimes it doesn't take years to know someone. One glance can be enough. For a moment, there was silence. Not not the kind that feels empty, but the kind where hearts speak louder than words. The prince held out his hand. Prince, if you allow me, may this dance never end. Cinderella, softly. I wish it never had to. But suddenly, dong! The clock began to strike midnight. Cinderella's eyes widened in panic. Cinderella, I must go. Prince, but I don't even know your name. Cinderella turned and ran. Prince, wait! Please! He followed her through the crowd, but she was already at the grand staircase. As she fled, one of her glass slippers slipped from her foot and fell upon the steps. By the time the prince reached the courtyard, she was gone. Only the slipper remained, gleaming softly in the moonlight. The prince picked it up gently and whispered, "Prince, wherever you are, I will find you." In that moment, his heart knew for certain he had found true love. The next morning, the palace was filled with excitement. The prince had not slept a single moment. His thoughts were still lost in the memory of the mysterious girl from the ball. There was only one question burning in his mind. Prince, how will I ever find her again? The only clue he had was the delicate glass slipper she had left behind on the staircase. He vowed to find the girl whose foot would fit it perfectly, for he knew that no one else could be the one he had danced with. So the prince and his guards set out, visiting every house in the kingdom. They tried the slipper on every young woman, but it fit none of them. Some girls' feet were too large, some too small, and some even tried to squeeze and twist their toes. But the slipper refused them all, for it was made for one heart only. At last, the royal carriage arrived at the house where Cinderella lived. Her stepmother had already heard the news and was prepared. She locked Cinderella in the dark cellar while her two daughters waited in the sitting room, dressed in their finest gowns. The first stepsister tried the slipper, but her heel was too big it wouldn't even go halfway. The second stepsister, desperate, forced her foot into it until her face turned red, but the glass would not yield. The prince sighed in disappointment and turned to leave. But just then, a soft voice came from the back of the house. "Cinderella, may I try as well?" Everyone turned in shock. Cinderella stood at the top of the stairs, shy and gentle, wearing her old, torn dress. Her stepmother rushed forward, flustered. "Stepmother, she's only a servant. It would be most improper for her to even touch such a slipper." But the prince raised his hand to stop her. Something deep within him told him that this girl was the one he had been searching for. One of the guards brought the slipper and knelt before Cinderella. She took a deep breath and carefully slipped her foot inside. And it fit perfectly. No pinch, no space, as if the slipper had been made just for her. At that moment, a soft light filled the room. The fairy godmother appeared once more, her wand shining with magic. With a wave, Cinderella's rags transformed again into her radiant gown, glittering like starlight. Her stepmother and stepsisters froze in disbelief. The prince took Cinderella's hand and looked into her eyes. "Prince, my heart did not deceive me. I have found you." Tears of joy filled Cinderella's eyes. All the years of pain and sorrow seemed to fade away. For the first time, someone saw her true worth, her gentle, brave heart. The prince knelt before her, his voice trembling with both love and gratitude. "Prince, from the moment I saw you, I knew my heart belongs to you. Will you marry me?" Cinderella smiled through her tears. Cinderella: "Yes, 1,000 times. Yes." The kingdom burst into celebration. The palace was filled with laughter, music, and light. Cinderella was no longer the ash girl she had become a princess. Yet she never forgot who she was, and she treated everyone in the castle with kindness and grace. One quiet evening, as they stood together off the balcony, gazing at the stars, "Prince, are you happy?" Cinderella: "Now I am simply happy, because my heart has found its home." The prince held her hand gently. "Prince, together anything is possible." Cinderella: "And together, forever." Fireworks lit up the sky above the kingdom, painting it with colors of gold and silver. From afar, the fairy godmother watched them with a proud, tender smile. And so Cinderella and her prince lived a